Grady Grissom is a Princeton graduate whose family has been working the land for generations. After studying geology and earning a PhD, he returned to Colorado to pursue his dream of operating his own ranch. In 1995, he began to merge his new knowledge with age-old techniques for raising cattle.
The tradition of neighboring, for me, it was education. Ultimately, it was watching the neighbors, Lloyd Hall and Julius Roberts, the two oldest guys with sort of the most cultural knowledge. Seeing how they ran their operations was what turned on the light switch for me. This is the trap I fell into. You sit down with a piece of paper and you say, well, every time we add a cow, we're chipping away at that overhead. And so we've got to maximize our efficiency in terms of stocking rate. And what happened the first few years is I over-maximize that efficiency. And when a rancher is overstocked, he gets an ecological message through his cattle in 1 year, and that message is brutal. It's immediate. An 80% breed back in a cow herd versus a 90% breed back is huge. And so I was getting those economic messages, but I was thinking, well, I can fix it by changing the calving season. If I get the right breed of cattle, I'll fix it. If I feed a little more supplement in the wintertime, I'll fix it. And then ultimately I hit a point where I looked at Lloyd and Julius and said, you know what? You don't have to run right at that optimum stocking rate. Just back it off. You know, I was focused on the land. Am I running too many cattle? What's the land telling me about what I'm doing to it? One of the things Lloyd Hall told me was, look at your cattle. They'll tell you. When your cattle are fat and healthy, your land will be healthy. So just watching those guys through neighboring was the key.
Steve Wooten is a modern rancher who inherited the lifestyle from some of the early Irish settlers in southeastern Colorado. After a time in college, he returned to the land of his grandparents, bringing with him their work ethic and willingness to diversify.
Willard Loudon worked for my grandmother and knew my grandfather. He came down to our ranch. He made a comment, as Willard described it in the 30s into the 50s, the water development and the fencing across all ranches, not just our ranches, there was large expanses in between water sources. And I can remember my grandmother even telling me this, that sometimes there would be no vegetation for up to a half a mile or more in every direction from that water source, which puts a lot of stress on cattle. We've put in miles and miles. We have over 30 miles of buried PVC pipeline on the ranch and close to 25 steel rim tanks for water sources to distribute cattle across the property more uniformly and not crowd individual areas. And at this point we have 27 different pastures on the ranch. And that allows us to, at any given time period, we're probably resting more than 2/3 of the ranch and utilizing only 1/3 of it in 30 to 90-day increments.
There's a significant percentage of ranchers who, over the last 20 or 30 years, their focus has become the ecology of grazing. Solar dollars. A rancher is converting solar energy into meat, protein for humans. Another way to say it, a rancher is a grass farmer. That ultimately the product he's raising is grass. And when you group cattle up and put them in one pasture and start moving them around, their impact on their environment becomes more obvious. You plan things, you monitor how the ecosystem responded, and then you replan based on that monitoring data. And so that formula of adaptive management, that got me interested in grazing ecology and someone who uses my cows as a tool to try to promote the health of the ecosystem. Maximum ecological health drives maximum profit.
Making a small ranch profitable requires an intimate knowledge of the territory, along with careful engineering of the entire system. Combining new practices with old wisdom has led to greater efficiencies, healthier land, and a better product.
We've probably made as much change in our management of how we utilize our grasses by selecting for cows that fit the environment. As cows that were poor grazers started to show themselves, and we sold those cows out of our cow herd and kept a cow herd that now, on pretty much grass resources year round, they stay in good body condition. They wean heavier calves than we did 15 years ago. And we still have conception rates in our herd of 90 to 95%. So if they're converting well on the grass, they're staying healthy, then they're going to breed up and they're going to bring a lot of calves to weaning in the fall.
The guys who are successful, they accept that reality immediately and they make decisions and they act on it. And I think that's one of the things I struggled with in that stocking rate thing was, well, I can make this work. I can force this to work. And the fact is you can't. I mean, there's ecological limits. That land limits you. And so that's probably the key skill is just facing the reality and responding to it.